Well, happy Pesach Sheni. So depending on where people are located, well, it started for everyone last night. And yesterday, Shabbos was the Rebbe's brother's birthday, Yisrael Aryaleib, Yud Gimel. And that became a holiday for physics students at Beis Rivka. The girls would bring in snacks, and I'd smuggle in a bottle of wine, and we'd make it for brinket and learn from a kuntras that the Rebbe printed in his brother's honor, in his brother's memory. And in this kuntras, there was a page of his research. This was like the 1920s quantum mechanics. That's what was happening. And on this page of research of the Rebbe's brother's research, it spoke about the Greek letter psi, which is the altitude of a matter wave. Now, if you've ever studied high school physics, or even before that, or math, you might have learned about waves, that kind of wave. And waves have an amplitude, how high they go. And then when they just started to discover that particles had wave properties, and they also have an amplitude. So it was really, really the place to be studying. So of course, it was much more advanced, the research, than just high school physics, but just to recognize what was being studied was very exciting. And the Sikha that we would look at spoke about how the Baal Shem Tov had a choice, that he could have gone up to Shemayim like Eliyahu Hanavi, but he chose the Jewish dust experience. The Jewish dust experience, to be buried under the ground, elevates the entire earth, the entire world. So anyway, it's something to think about. And okay, so then today, so we started with yesterday, I hardly ever do that. Today, Yud Daled, Pesach Sheni, we all have another chance, is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Meir baal haness. So I want to tell two stories about Rabbi Meir. Oh dear, that could be problematic. There, it stopped. No, let's continue it. So, Rabbi Meir baal haness. First, and anytime it says Rabbi Meir in the Gemara, it means Rabbi Meir baal haness, the master of miracles. Something very exciting. I hope people can still hear me with that. The ringing has subsided. So here's the first story. So people might know Rabbi Meir was married to Bruria, and her father, Rabbi Hananya ben Trajan, was one of the 10 martyrs tortured to death by the Romans for teaching Torah. And her mother, Bruria's mother, was killed, and Bruria's sister was sent off to a brothel in Rome. So this was very painful. This was very painful for Bruria, and she pleaded with her husband, Rabbi Meir baal haness. I guess he had already had a reputation for doing miracles, that he should go to Rome and rescue her sister. And he went off to Rome. He found the brothel. He went in disguise, and he saw how somehow she had miraculously maintained her purity. She would say, there's a prettier girl in the next room, or I'm not feeling so well today, or whatever. And so some Rabbi Meir knew miracles would be made for her to escape. So he took her, and they ran through the brothel to the gate where there was a shomer, there was a guard, and the guard didn't want to let them go. And Rabbi Meir he brought gold coins to bribe the guard. And the guard said, well, this is good for today, but my boss is going to count the girls, and when one is missing, they're going to hang me. And he said, and they said, no. Rabbi Meir said, no, you just have to say, Elokah de Meir aneni, God of Meir, answer me. God of Meir, answer me. Elokah de Meir aneni. Not even like Rabbi Meir, just plain Meir. Elokah de Meir aneni. And that's what and that will save you. The guard was a little suspicious. It didn't sound so likely, but Rabbi Meir got this dog to this dog was about to leap up, some wild dog was about to leap up and attack the guard. And the only thing he could do was say, Elokah meir aneni, and the dog became a sweet little puppy. He saw there was power in those words. So he let them go, Rabbi Meir and his sister-in-law. And sure enough, they came, and there was the guard. They were going to hang the guard. There was a girl missing from the brothel, and they saw no matter what they did, they couldn't. The rope broke everything. There was no way. All he had to say was Elokah Meir Aneni, and he was saved. Okay, so meanwhile, this is of course a couple of thousand years ago, before the printing press. They couldn't just put up posters. Rabbi Meir wanted, dead or alive. So they would hammer out his image in the different street corners of Rome. Rabbi Meir wanted by the Roman government. So wait, hold on one sec. Mayor, please go outside. I can't, it's really just, thank you. So yes. Okay. So then they're after Rabbi Meir, and they're running. Rabbi Meir and his sister-in-law running through the streets of Rome. They run into a treif restaurant, and please see from a couple of blocks away, and they run up and look through the window, and they see who they thought was Rabbi Meir stick his finger into a bowl of treif soup and lick his finger, and they said, well, that couldn't be Rabbi Meir. And what Rabbi Meir did was he stuck one finger into the soup and he licked a different finger, and ta-dum, they were saved. Now, and they got back to Rome, and he was able to save his sister-in-law. That's one story. That's a kind of famous story. Then there's a slightly less well-known story that one day Sutton was saying to Hashem, you think Rabbi Meir is so great. I bet I could tempt him. Okay, so Sutton decides to go for it. And Rabbi Meir is walking along a riverbank, and the Sutton is on the other side of the riverbank, disguised as this unbelievably charming, irresistibly beautiful woman. And Rabbi Meir sees her, and he starts swimming across the river towards her. And the angels from heaven start weeping, Hashem, have Rachmanis on the Torah of Rabbi Meir, and she disappeared. Now, that's a miracle. So there you go. So Rabbi Meir was saved. So there's two stories about Rabbi Meir baal haness, whose yahrzeit is today. If you're still in one of those Western countries, you can still light a candle. They say it's very good to light a candle and give tzedakah on the yahrzeit of Rabbi Meir baal haness. And remember, Aneni, Elokah Meir Aneni. If you've been there, like on the women's side of where his caver is, there's like these 3 or 4 indented kind of circular half stones, and you can kind of snuggle into them, and it says this on top, Elokah Meir Aneni. Okay, so that brings us back to our studies in Twinkle. And we'll see how the time goes, if there's more to say about this week. Okay, so for those looking in, could a few more people put on their cameras? By the way, I really appreciate it. It makes a difference. I'm very grateful to Jennifer and Peril and Shoshana. Oh, and Deborah. Yes, it's a big mitzvah to put on your camera. It's like, yeah, peoples. Okay, so we're going to review from 122. This is a very heavy part. I mean, it's just these 2 paragraphs are really enough for a lifetime study. But so 3rd line down on 122. Infidelity is the archetypal sin that causes memory loss. Amalek, the arch enemy of the Jewish people, who would most like us to lose our memories, chas v'shalom, is especially associated with this sin. The Tanya teaches, and this is Tanya Geras Hatshuva, chapter 9. The Tanya teaches that sexual betrayal is detrimental to the mind in general. Okay, so one has to, this is it, one has to come to terms. This is what it says. This relates not only to actual physical betrayal, but even betrayal in thoughts and fantasies. Tshuva for any disloyalty towards our spouse is essential for retaining our mental faculties and memories in old age. Now that's really enough for a whole book could be written on that subject. I mean, we've spoken a lot in the past about thought management. It's like one of those constant activities in life. So it's saying that this is a particular area that right now we know from the third paragraph of the Shema, lo sasaru, like we shouldn't follow after our hearts, eyes and hearts to prostitute ourselves after, which means it's a common problem. It's not like no one should think they're like especially weird. The animal soul could be very selective, but if it sees someone that catches its eye for some reason, the animal soul will feel, I want a piece of that. And then there's whatever happens next. One can go along with the animal soul and scheme, make plans, or one can say like, this is, this thought will not be good for my mental health, because it says in chapter 9 in Ignorance and Apathy that it's detrimental to the mind. It's detrimental to the mind. So so infidelity in thought is detrimental to the mind. So it's the effort. It's this effort that has to be put in by the average person. I mean, I always, after Y.Y. Jacobson described Geveret Potiphar so poetically, that she had an eye for quality people. She had an eye for quality people. And, there was nobody quality in Mitzrayim at that time. And then one quality person came along. I mean, we can empathize with her. I mean, what choice, Okay, so it's something that the average person has to work on. The Alter Rebbe mentions there's some cold, clammy people, more shakora, they don't have this problem. But it seems like it's a common problem. It's a very big deal. I mean, to keep one's mind in a state of holiness. Okay, so that's good, but it's good for the memory, it's good for the mind. So there, enough said on that. And then, so this is basically the review. So it says disloyalty, begida, is also related to clothing, beged, and the tzitzis worn by Jewish men is particularly associated with yesod. This mitzvah is explicitly associated with remembering, as discussed previously. The Torah states that wearing tzitzis rectifies the sin of gazing at promiscuous sights. It's an interesting thought, because we're interested in rectifying. Okay, indeed, the Talmud relates that there was once a man who was particularly careful about wearing tzitzis. He heard of a notorious promiscuous woman and prepaid an exorbitant sum of money for an appointment with her. So it must have been hard in those days to prepay. When the time arrived, he climbed the ladder to the bed she was lying in. As he climbed, his tzitzis slapped against his face, and he left hold of the ladder and dropped to the floor. The woman climbed down and sat there with him. She asked him to tell her what flaw he had found in her that caused him to abandon her so suddenly. His reply was that she was indeed the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, but the 4 strings of his tzitzis has come as witnesses to remind him that Hashem punishes iniquity and rewards good deeds. So we did this is a review when we spoke about last time so that's the 11th principle of the Rambam, the 13 principles of the Jewish faith. The 11th is to have emunah in reward and punishment. And then the 12th is the belief in Mashiach, and the 13th is Techiyas HaMesim. And Rabbi YY said, like, we're moving from the 11th to the 12th, like we're not being good for that reward and punishment business. No, we've moved beyond. We're doing to bring Mashiach. We're doing our good deeds to bring Mashiach. Yeah. Okay. So now we're at the top of 123. Do it now while you still remember. An important tip for remembering to do something significant is to do it at the first possible moment. This did help me today. I did teach this morning, and I found this helpful. This idea is expressed in various ways by the sages. For example, if a mitzvah comes to hand, don't miss the opportunity. This is particularly relevant to us as we grow older. not only because our time is shorter and also could take us longer to do it, okay, but also because we need the merit of all the mitzvahs that we can possibly gather in order to safeguard our old age. Isn't that a nice image? The merit of mitzvahs safeguards our old age. The very act of doing a mitzvah improves our aging experience, especially when we have in mind the union achieved between the masculine and feminine aspects of reality. So when I was reading about the uniting the masculine and feminine aspects of reality, it reminds, so this is the idea of uniting HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah, Hashem and the divine presence. And it's funny, one of the mitzvahs that makes me conscious of that is serving soup on Friday night. For some reason, something about putting the ladle in the soup, lifting it up, putting it in a bowl. I just feel that I am uniting Hashem and the Shekhinah. But this is true of every mitzvah. But if we feel it with a particular mitzvah, then we should enjoy that as much as possible. It could be different for every person. Because Baruch Hashem, I often have a lot of young girls helping me, and they carefully note which mitzvah I want to do by myself, So at least that first bowl of soup, there's something there. Okay, so then there's this quote from Gemara Pesachim: the swift, the zrizus, the swift are prompt to do mitzvahs. This Talmudic statement refers in particular to the mitzvah of the bris, which is a reflection of marital fidelity. Being swift is recommended even if the same objective may be achieved later in a superior manner. Being swift is better than doing it later better. We don't delay a mitzvah because once postponed, it may be deferred indefinitely. I'm sure we can all think of examples. Or perhaps we will never have the chance to complete it. So I'm saying this did inspire me this morning. It somehow, okay, every mitzvah we do is especially enhanced when we take care to act promptly. This is why even on Shabbos, when we usually take things easy, we should hurry to do a mitzvah. So no more procrastination, or much less, or at least, okay, each person can decide. We can once again aspire to reach the level of our forefather Avraham, who exemplified swiftness. As Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, points out in the Tanya, again, Ignorance and Apathy, this time chapter 21, for someone of Avraham's stature, offering up his son Yitzhak when commanded to do so by God was the minor aspect of the test. The unique aspect was that he carried out the mitzvah with swiftness and joy. Avraham acted with amazing agility and speed, aptly demonstrating his joyful desire to fulfill Hashem's will. So it's the zrizus. It said, many people had big tests, but the secret is the zrizus, the alacrity with which he did it. But I just must quiet an outside noise one moment. Yes. Okay, let's see how that goes. Okay, so we're on 124, second paragraph. And how old was Avraham when he carried out this amazing feat? He was at the unique age of 137, the coupling numbers that connects us to our forgotten memories as discussed in chapter 12. So that was a new one for me. I wouldn't have, that had been on the quiz, how old was Avraham at the time of the Akedah? I wouldn't have gotten that answer right. But now that it's 137, and Rav Yitzhak wrote a whole book just on the number 137, I'll be able to remember that fact. Okay. Rabbi Shneir Zalman emphasizes that the mitzvah of, I skipped one sentence. It is from Avraham that our sages derive the requirement to be swift, when observing any mitzvah. Zrizus in mitzvahs. Okay, the Alter Rebbe emphasizes that the mitzvah of tzedakah is the most important mitzvah that requires agility. This is how Rashi interprets the word sav in the Torah. It comes to motivate the one who is commanded to act swiftly, especially when the mitzvah involves monetary expense. We shouldn't put off giving tzedakah. If we're going to give it, that nowadays it's so easy. We could be lying on our couch, holding our phone, and there's a link, give tzedakah. One doesn't, it's so easy. One doesn't have to even run over to the pushka, open the door, nothing, just, okay, so don't put it off, everybody, even if we could give a larger amount at a later date, don't put it off. Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk explains that doing something for the first time motivates us to do it swiftly. The Mishnah states, the older that Torah scholars become, the more settled their minds become, which means peace of mind. It's very interesting. When I was growing up, I hadn't really heard the concept of peace of mind, and I don't think I would have understood what it meant. Like, it was just so far from my reality that there was such a concept. So peace of mind is something that one can develop as one goes through life. Rabbi Elimelech teaches that this refers to their ability to retain a sense of newness at every stage of life. Oh, I really like that. A sense of newness, to retain a sense of newness in every stage of life. Fresh. We see them as sages, but they perceive themselves as students. And that's the expression, Talmud Hacham. A student is a Talmud Hacham. They're always a student of wisdom. So to always see ourselves as students, it's true. I mean, we're always learning. We're always really learning. It's actually astounding. Baruch Hashem, we are very lucky that we're always learning with such zrizis. Okay, to perceive ourselves as students, their innate humility enhances their wisdom. Like, we're always learning, and we know about that shiftless. We've learned about that shiftless, not seeing ourselves as better than other people, is the source of joy, of true joy. It's so interesting because, when I was growing up, in the period that I was growing up, the messages, but being better than people somehow was supposed to be what led to happiness. And that was wrong. That was an erroneous belief. It's feeling just the same. We're all in it together, not shiftless, Yes, being humble before the lowest of the low. Okay, so there's a sense of newness. It says, they approach the Torah with the newness, curiosity, and agility of youth, fired by the belief that even though they are certainly more refined than they were in earlier days, they still have more to learn. So I guess we can all say that, right? We're more refined than we were in earlier days, but we still have more to learn. So this newness and curiosity, what I thought of when I saw this word, to retain this curiosity, I thought of this Sikha that I heard YY give over. I think it's from Likutei Sichas, volume 10 on Noach, where the Rebbe is speaking about the difference between the reaction of Shem and Yafes to their father and Ham's reaction. And the Rebbe speaks there about this idea from the Baal Shem Tov that when we see something negative in another person, this is Hashem's way to tell us what we have to work on. I mean, this is a very common idea from the Baal Shem Tov. Even psychology has picked up on it. And so the Rebbe asked the question, well, what doesn't a tzaddik have to see reality accurately? Wouldn't a tzaddik see this same flaw in a person? And so how Rabbi YY explains it is that, so he gives an example. The husband comes home from shul and he tells his wife, that guy in shul, he's such a lowlife, he's a liar, he's always lying, he's such a lowlife. So if that's the reaction, yes, this person has this flaw. But if someone's reaction is, this man appears to be lying, What does the Torah say I should do in such a situation? So the word curiosity reminded me of that. What does the Torah say to do in this situation? It's interesting to know. There we go. So to retain a sense of newness at every stage, to retain this newness and curiosity all the time as we go. And so this is, there's always more to learn. Yes. Okay. So there we go. Look at that. Oh, so then this last paragraph here. In this way, Rabbi Elimelech interprets Shlomo HaMelech's words. I said I will become wise, but it is far from me. Quote from Koheles. So Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, realized that the root of wisdom is to know that it's always beyond one's reach, that there's always more to learn. There's always more to learn. Yeah. So let's learn a little more. And then I want to leave some time just to say a couple of words about Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So we said in the beginning that any time in the Gemara that it says Rabbi Meir, it's Rabbi Meir baal haness, l'chaim to Rabbi Meir, whose yahrzeit was today or is today if you're in America, l'chaim. Yes, and we have Rabbi Shimon. And anytime it says plain Rabbi Shimon, it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Gemara, because there's other Rabbi Shimons. There's Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Shimon ben Azai, Shimon ben Zomer, but if it's just Stam Rabbi Shimon, it's our guy, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So maybe I will say a couple of things about Rabbi Shimon right now that I've mentioned his name, and it's also connected with physics. So, about this rainbow business. So the rainbow, and then Rashi says, the rainbow is to remind Hashem not to destroy the world, but there were certain generations that didn't need a rainbow, such as the generation of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because he was a living rainbow. That's what it says. That's what it says in the song. One of the wonderful Lag BaOmer songs speaks about how he was a living rainbow. So they didn't need a rainbow. He was the rainbow. And I was thinking, that could be good on, Shidduch resume. Living rainbow sounds like sounds like my type of guy. Yes. Okay. So this business with the rainbows, this also fits in with physics in honor of the Rebbe's brothers' yahrzeit yesterday. So they didn't have rainbows before the time of Noah, before the Mabul. So there was a refinement. There was a refinement in the structure of matter that there could be rainbows. Because to have a rainbow, it means that these little droplets of water need to be able to refract the light and disperse the light into all the colors. So not every so before the Mabul, the raindrops weren't able to do that. So there was no rainbows. But then with the refinement of matter, they were able to do that. And it's like, there was a change, with carbon dating, they can date things until going back to the Mabul, but not before. They can be accurate back to the Mabul, but not before that, because they don't take into account that the whole nature and structure of reality changed, including the breaking down of carbon. One physics lesson. Another physics lesson. Lag BaOmer is connected with the bow and arrow, right? It's like a thing kids go out with the bow and arrow, and it's connected. And why is it connected with Lag BaOmer? Because what is it with the physical bow and arrow, part of high school physics, that the more you pull it back towards yourself, the further the arrow will go. The more potential energy you put into the bow, that will become kinetic energy of the arrow, right? Could everyone please nod their heads right, please? Thank you. Yes. Okay, because I won't lie about such a thing. You can trust me when I talk about these kinds of things. Yes, so what's happening? So the message of Rabbi Shimon is the deeper we go within ourselves, the more deeply we can connect with other people, which really makes sense. Doesn't that make sense? It's just makes sense. And the whole work of Pnimius HaTorah is to allow us to go deep, to have deep connections with people. Yeah, why not? So there's 2 physics lessons. So it's very excited. It's getting to be the day of the living rainbow. And yeah, it's a big holiday. It should be only good news, only good news. I think the Geula Shalema, this Lag BaOmer. Okay, so I'm glad I got that in. So we're on 125. So we are, I think by next week, we're probably going to be finished with this Sefer, Twinkle in Your Eye, Restoring Youth and Memory. And we're going to be going on to Rabbi Yitzchak's book on the 6 constant mitzvahs, living in divine space. And it's really exciting because you never have to be bored again. Once you know the 6 constant mitzvahs, wherever you are at any time, the light is changing, you're in the elevator. The traffic is moving slowly. You're waiting in the dentist's office. No. Okay, so all of these things is the 6 exciting constant mitzvahs. That's my advertisement. If you want to get the book, it's optional. Okay, so swiftness with deliberation. Being swift to do a mitzvah is not the same as acting with reckless hastiness associated with youth. So please don't confuse zrizis with reckless hastiness. Torah elders have a settled mind, which indicates a sense of moderation and restraint, quite the opposite of quick impulsiveness. The Hasidic idiom coined by the Baal Shem Tov, that's from Keser Shem Tov 205, that describes the correct balance between speed and moderation is swiftness with deliberation. So mitinut, mem, taf, yud, nun, vav, taf. Mitinut is moderation, discretion. So it's like this paradise balance. We learn so much of these balances of 2 opposites. We have to have zrizas with moderation. Yes, that's good. I'm glad that we're staying balanced. Swiftness and deliberation as separate qualities are both deficient. Swiftness and agility can degenerate to recklessness, while deliberation can tend towards complacency, like things are really okay. Things are okay. I think I'll lie on the couch. Okay, right, that's a quick joke. What's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know and I don't care. Okay, never mind. I couldn't resist. Okay, overthinking the situation is not conducive to changing reality and permeating it with divine awareness. So that one got me. Permeating reality with divine awareness. Now, who wouldn't want to do that? We are here. We have a mission. Permeating reality with divine awareness. And then I have the footnote 25 there circled. I'm just going to read you that footnote. It's on page 178. Impatience and seeking immediate gratification can be seen as the root of all sin, since even the sin of the tree of knowledge stemmed from a similar era. Impatience and seeking immediate superficial gratification. Impatience and seeking immediate superficial gratification is the root of all sin. Now that seems like very valuable information to be just put here in a footnote. We have to think about this. The root of all sin, impatience and seeking immediate superficial gratification. This has to be taught. Okay, so there we go. Important footnote 25. Back to the text. Swiftness relates to male vitality, which travels at the speed of light, as it were, to rectify reality. As modern science has shown, everything is relative to the speed of light. In other words, nothing could go faster than the speed of light. Since light is truly objective, it has an infinite lifespan and does not age at all. Now, that's an interesting way of putting it. It's the idea that a ray of light, if nothing stops it, can just travel infinitely through space. It's like keeps on going. I mean, something could stop it if it runs into a planet, a wall, whatever, it will stop. But theoretically, It doesn't age. Now, isn't that an interesting idea that light has an infinite lifespan and doesn't age? We can learn from light. But light can only remember the present moment. Now, there's so light is really here and now. It only remembers the present moment. By contrast, the feminine trait of deliberation is calm and unchanging and can be compared to the relatively slow speed of sound. It is she who can contain the power of infinite speed and nurture it to maturity. Since development is a natural process, it necessarily requires time. Now, there's an interesting sentence. Since development is a natural process, it necessarily requires time, like the maturation of a fetus in its mother's womb, which preempts the aging process. Right, preempts the fetus developing in its mother's womb is preempting the aging process. It is also the root of the ability to remember the past and look ahead to see that which is being born. Now, there's really a huge amount of information. To see that which is being born is haroa es hanoled, which is one of the things that is highly recommended by one of the sages in Pirkei Avos that we read recently. Okay, to see what will be born, so it has a lot of meanings. What does it mean, haroa es hanoled? To see what will be born. It can mean on a simple level, what are the repercussions of my next comment? Can I see the repercussions? Can I see the repercussions? Is it worthwhile to say it? Seeing the repercussions. In other words, to see what will be born, to see what will come to fruit from my actions, from my words, to look into the future and see. It's a very useful talent. It can help steer one much more gracefully through life. Haroa es hanoled. It's a wonderful quality. So it's saying the root of the ability to remember the past and look ahead to see that which is being born. So that's someone with a lot of, I guess it's almost like prophecy. I mean, ultimately, to see what will be born. So the next a little bit more. So top of the next page. So we see that the union of this complementary pair of seemingly contradictory attributes parallels the paradoxical union of intimate knowledge with inherent serenities. The male intimate knowledge with inherent serenity, the paradoxical union. So a lot of this, it seems like there's nowhere to escape the bearing of the paradox. I guess there's like really, I mean, this is the ultimate secret of mental health, is the ability to bear the paradox of life. That on the level of, that we've spoken about, the Rav Yitzhak, I heard him teach in 770, of being sane and insane at the same time, because on the one hand, we have to see reality accurately in order to be able to truly empathize with someone who's suffering. And on the other hand, we have to believe the next moment could be the Geula Shalema. So that's bearing a paradox. That's bearing a big paradox. So he said it's being sane and insane at the same time. But which one is the sane? Which one is the insane? And it changes from moment to moment. It's not like one can really get it down, because it's a challenge. The new moment brings the challenge. So now he's talking about the paradoxical union of intimate knowledge and inherent serenity. We spoke about, since we're speaking about Rabbi Shimon, we could speak about his son, Rabbi Elazar, who's buried right near him. And Rabbi Elazar is the one who taught us, in one side of my heart is chedva, joy, and on the other side of my heart is bechia, is weeping. And that's like Jewish life. That's Jewish life. So it's good to be able to access both sides. We don't want to get stuffed up. We don't want either side to get stuffed up. There's times when it's good to be able to weep, tears of love, tears of empathy, tears of joy. It's good to not have the tears stuffed up on the one side and the chedva on the other side, that Baruch Hashem, We're Jewish. We have a mission to, what was that mission? To reveal godliness, reveal godliness in the universe. Wow. So there we go. So I think this is, so, and then the last sentence is, this is the desired formula in our quest for sustaining youthfulness. So it comes. So what did we learn today? Let's do a quick summary in our remaining moments here together. So we started off with this very tough part about what causes, what's detrimental to the mind, sexual betrayal in thought. So that requires thought management, and each person has to decide. The animal soul will want to proceed. It will want to proceed in its interest because it's looking for that, what was that superficial, quick superficial gratification. And one has to give it another thought. Give it another thought to think about. Okay, so we spoke about that, and do it while you still remember with Zrizas. Give tzedakah now, don't put it off. Retaining a sense of newness and curiosity in learning Torah, that we're all students. And then this paradox of Zrizas, alacrity with matinus, moderation, deliberation. And this is the unity that we're looking for. So look, we got up to here. We really just have, we're going to be finishing off Yesod next week, and Malchus is rather short, so it could be we'll make a siyum next week on this book. So bring along your alcoholic beverages. Should we take a picture? Come on, put on your cameras, get well picture for the Rav. Come on, Ilana, Chanasara. Let's go. Let's have a little smile. Yes, yes. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yes. All right. So it's really so lovely. I'm really happy to be learning this with everyone together, because it's the kind of thing that it's good to learn, and it's good to learn together. And if it wasn't for all of you, I might not be doing it. So thank you. Mwah. Lots of love. There's another wonderful class coming up for those who have time, but really have a wonderful week. And don't forget Wednesday night, Thursday, wherever you find yourself, you can light a little fire and bring down hamshachas of that living rainbow, the panemius of Torah, so that we can connect deeply, deeply, deeply with our fellow Jews. We can connect deeply, deeply, deeply with Hashem. May we all be blessed. Have a wonderful week. Lots of love.